I hit the marble before the elevator finished dinging, and the world went white. A man in a suit folded his jacket under my head so I wouldn't crack it on the floor. Then my collar slipped, and he saw the bruise on my neck shaped exactly like a hand. If it were you, what would you have done? Pull the fabric back up and pretend, or finally say what needed saying? My name is Clara, and for 3 years I cleaned the glass and stone at Lux Group's headquarters before most people even found their keys. I loved those early hours, the soft squeak of my cart, the way the lobby slowly woke up under the chandeliers, the quiet that let me hear my own breathing. Invisible was my favorite uniform. Invisible meant no questions about long sleeves in July. No small talk that might turn into big talk, no one noticing that I skipped meals because every spare dollar went into a secret account my husband didn't know existed. I told myself if I could just get to 3,500, I could get a place by a pan sleep without flinching at footsteps in the hall. Hunger felt like control. Except it wasn't control. It was a slow collapse that finally met a hard floor. I came back around to faces hovering above me and the CEO himself kneeling beside me. Ethan Royce, the name on the building. "Clara, can you hear me?" he said, voice calm like a hand you can hold. I tried to sit up. "I'm fine," I lied, because that's what you do when you can't afford to be broken. My collar shifted and the lobby light found the bruise. Yellow-green arcs where fingers had squeezed down. The receptionist's hand flew to her mouth. A security guard studied the ceiling. Ethan's face changed, not pity, not disgust. Attention. He leaned in the tiniest bit, kept his voice so low only I could hear it. "Who did this to you?" I had my script ready. "It's nothing." I bumped into a door. "It looks worse than it is." You know those lies you practice until they sit on your tongue like they belong there? Yeah, that. He didn't argue. He didn't shame me. He just made a decision. "You're not working today. Paramedics first. Company doctor. Then you take the week off. Paid. Paid." A word from a language I thought wasn't for me. I said no. He said yes, the way a pilot says we're landing now. Paramedics checked me, said malnourished, dehydrated, exhausted, recommended sleep, and food like they were medicine. Ethan thanked them, helped me up with both hands like I might break, then pulled 200s from his wallet and pressed them into my palm. Groceries. Consider it an advance. Pride burned. I won't lie, but my cabinets had a jar of peanut butter and half a bag of rice, and those bills felt like oxygen after a long time underwater. His assistant Sarah texted to make sure I got home and told me HR had processed a week of paid leave. I stared at my phone like it had grown a second screen. Then an email arrived from a private address with a document called Resources that looked like a benefits leaflet if anyone glanced at it. Open it, and you'd find shelters, legal aid, counseling, job training, safety, planning, financial assistance numbers that answer at 2 a.m. A short note at the bottom. "You don't owe me explanations. You deserve to feel safe. You're stronger than you know." Here's the thing. I hadn't told anyone. 2 weeks earlier, my husband had grabbed my throat and squeezed just long enough to make words expensive. He didn't hit my face. He was too careful for that. He preferred the parts clothes could hide. He said I was nothing without him. He said no one would believe me. He said leaving would be the biggest mistake of my life. For longer than I want to admit, I believed him. You know what I mean. The week off stretched like gum, then snapped tight. I made soup with real vegetables and chicken, ate until my hands stopped shaking, then opened that resource file again and again. I read about the cycle of abuse and saw my life mapped out like a subway diagram. I read about financial abuse and saw my passwords living in someone else's mouth. I read the sentence, "None of it is your fault," and it landed like a gavel. On Thursday, I dialed a number with fingers that wouldn't steady. "My name is Clara," I said. Then swallowed, "I think I need help." A woman with a voice strong enough to hold a roof asked me questions, without a hint of "why didn't you leave sooner?" She offered me an appointment with a lawyer named Rebecca, who handled exactly this. Pro bono. No invoice for surviving. That night my phone rang with a number I didn't know. "Clara, it's Ethan. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time." My heart did a clumsy flip, I'll blame on caffeine. He checked on me, asked if the resources helped, told me the leave was mine, that if legal stuff got messy, they'd work my schedule around it. "From where I sit, you're one of the strongest people I know," he said. I laughed because it sounded like a line, but he didn't laugh back. He meant it. When I went back to work the next Monday, I braced for pity. I got something else. Security nodded like we shared a quiet understanding called dignity. The receptionist asked how I was feeling, and then changed the subject to a storm rolling in. My supervisor checked that I wasn't dizzy and left it there. Later that day, Rebecca sat across from me in a fluorescent-lit office and drew a map. "We can file for divorce and a restraining order at the same time," she said. "We'll plan your safety. If you feel in immediate danger, we can get a temporary order in hours. You have rights, Clara. You do not walk away with nothing." Pattern interrupt. I thought leaving meant starting at zero. Wrong. The law said different. I started documenting. I took pictures of old bruises and new ones fading. I kept a log with dates, times, words he used, places he stood. I dug out my birth certificate, my social security card, our marriage license. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and changed every password to something only I would guess. I told 2 co-workers the truth in case I went silent. If it were you, what would you have done? Keep your head down and hope, or start writing receipts for your life? A week later, Ethan asked me to come upstairs. I'd only seen his office from a distance, the city spread behind him like a painting. He didn't sit behind his desk like a judge. He took the chair across from me like a friend. "Do you have a safe place to go once this is in motion?" he asked. I told him about my studio apartment. He nodded, then said something that felt like grabbing a rope in the dark. "Lux keeps a few furnished apartments for short-term executives. They're empty right now. There's a doorman and cameras. If you want it, take one. No rent, no strings. Just safety while you get through this." My first answer was no, because my pride was loud. "I can't be dependent on anyone's kindness," I said. He didn't flinch. "This isn't dependence. It's a resource. You'll keep making your own decisions. Think of it as a safer starting line." He set a key and an address on the edge of his desk, like tools, not gifts. "No pressure," he said, and meant it. "Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind." That very afternoon, my husband showed up at Lux with flowers, a grin, and a phone. He tried to charm security to call the desk, to call my phone, to talk his way into the elevator. When that didn't work, he did something uglier. He went outside and began a live stream, told the internet I was being coerced by my billionaire boss, dropped phrases like "held against her will" and "inappropriate relationship," hinted he had proof. He tagged the company. He tagged the building. He tagged me. Within an hour, a gossip site picked it up, and some guy talking into a camera from his car 2 blocks away was using my name like a prop. Do you think that's fair? To weaponize someone's safety plan by flipping it into a scandal headline. Security shut it down as best they could, flagged the video, escorted him off property. HR, to their credit, pulled me aside gently. and asked if I felt pressured by anyone at work. I didn't. I said so on paper. Ethan recused himself from any meeting about me, asked outside counsel to handle the whole thing. He didn't text me, "Be careful." He stepped back in all the ways that matter when someone with less power is in the room. Meanwhile, Rebecca did what good lawyers do. She filed for a restraining order immediately and sent a cease and desist that same day. We printed screenshots. We printed timestamps. We waited. That night I took the key. I packed the studio down to what mattered. Left my building key with the super and rode the elevator of a building where the doorman said, "Welcome, Ms. Dawson," like safety was a craft he practiced. Inside the apartment, a note waited in Ethan's handwriting. "You're safe here. No information without your permission. Congratulations on choosing you." I put the key on the nightstand and slept like my body finally believed me. The next day he was served. He called. I didn't answer. He texted angry, then pleading, then threatening. I saved everything and replied with my lawyer's number. He went to my old building and pounded until the super told him I'd moved. He went to my job and stepped across a line security had warned him not to cross. They cuffed him. Yeah, that happened. The sound of those radios was the first time I understood that a paper order could have steel in it. Court stretched like a bad song you can't shut off. He fought over money, spun stories about instability, tried to paint me as unhinged. Rebecca stayed measured the way a steady hand keeps stitches neat. We brought evidence. The live video where he lied about me while trying to lure me back. Bank statements that showed financial control. Photos and logs. The judge's face didn't change much, but the orders did. Restraining order in place. Division of assets. And when it finally ended, I walked out with a settlement bigger than any number I'd ever let myself imagine. $200,000. Enough to make decisions based on hope instead of fear, to pay rent without choosing between food and a plan to go to school like I'd wanted 10 years earlier, before someone taught me my dreams were impractical. Around then, coffee with Ethan turned into the safest hour of my week. We talked about nothing and everything. Movies, quiet corners of the city, why some rooms make you breathe deeper for no logical reason. I said a sentence that embarrassed me a little. Before I got married, I wanted to study interior design. He smiled like he'd already known. Then study, he said. The time will pass anyway. Might as well aim it at something that matters, so I enrolled. At night, I sat under fluorescent lights learning about sight lines and color temperature, and how a cheap bulb can make a person feel smaller without knowing why. I read about trauma-informed design, the way layered light and soft acoustics and clear exits calm your nervous system, the way a room can quietly say you're safe. I started therapy too. Learned to say out loud what happened without tasting metal. Learned how to sleep without one ear open. One evening after class, I did the bravest, dumbest-sounding thing. I told him the truth. I'm falling in love with you. It rushed out like it had been running laps. He didn't play hero, he didn't say finally. He said, "Are you sure?" And he meant it. He said he wouldn't be a rebound. A harbor I never left a story, I told myself, because gratitude and love can look similar in low light. We set rules. I couldn't keep working for him if we were going to try this, so I gave notice. Scariest email I've ever typed. He was proud, not possessive. He didn't try to fix the fear. He just stood next to it with me. Haven Design started as a folder on my laptop and a belief that a room can be a hand you hold. Lux Group became my first client not as charity, but because apartments that let people breathe rent faster and stay longer, and that is called good business if you're paying attention. Word spread the way good rumors do. A shelter director emailed. A friend of a friend who'd sat in one of my rooms DM'd and said she felt her throat unclench for the first time in months. I built a non-profit arm because the woman I used to be deserved a better kitchen, even if her bank account said otherwise. I wrote down the phrase "dignity by design" and taped it above my desk. On the 1-year anniversary of my divorce being final, Ethan didn't take me to a fancy restaurant. He took me to a community center. Inside a room full of faces I knew and faces I didn't were standing under a wall of before and after photos. Gray, echoing spaces turned into rooms that told your body you belonged. There was a cake that said, "Welcome home" in icing that made my eyes sting. Rebecca hugged me like a sister. My therapist nodded once, which from her is a standing ovation. Ethan didn't make a speech. He let me walk the walls and look at the life I had built with my 2 hands, my stubborn hope, and a key on a nightstand. People still ask if Ethan saved me. I tell them no. I saved myself. He saw me, resourced me, and refused to control me. There's a difference. Do you see it? Or do you still want the cleaner version, where a powerful man swoops in and the woman is grateful forever? There's a part I haven't told you yet, and it matters because this is where people start arguing in the comments. A few months after Haven launched, Ethan handed me a small box at the end of one of those nights where you talk about nothing, and suddenly it's midnight. Inside was a key on a chain. "To the apartment," he said. "The one you've been living in." My stomach dropped. "I can't let you just give me an apartment," I said. He shook his head. "You've been paying market rent for months. I'm selling it to you for what you've already paid plus $1. It's clean. No strings. I want you secure." I argued. He didn't push. He laid out the paperwork like a mechanic sets tools in order. I bought my home for rent I'd already paid in a single dollar. I wore that key on my chest and slept like a person whose future had a hinge that finally worked. Controversial enough for you. Should a boss do any of that? Should they step into an employee's private crisis? Should a company property ever turn into a life raft? Or when personal harm bleeds into the workplace, is it leadership to act or paternalism dressed as kindness? Do you think that's fair one way or another? Be honest. The last scene I'll give you is small on purpose. Central Park, late afternoon, a bench by the water. He told me his mother used to sit there after she left. His father said the word neighbor like it was sacred because one opened a door that first night. He didn't say "be mine" when he pulled out a ring. He said, "Be my equal." I said yes because I already was. We married in a garden with no aisle handoff because I don't belong to anyone. I designed a simple dress with pockets and tucked my key inside where it knocked lightly against my ribs when I laughed. Now my days look like drawing rooms that whisper, "You're safe." And my nights look like dinner with a man who has never used the word "let" about my choices. We still disagree sometimes because love is human, and humans bump into each other. But we fight fair, we do the dishes, we apologize fast, we keep our promises. I carry the old version of me like a photo in a wallet, not to forget the bruises or the marble or the way hunger pretends to be control, but to remember that a single choice repeated daily can rewrite a life. Before I go, I'll leave you with the question that keeps the light on in my head. When help arrives from someone with power, what makes it help and not another leash? Where's the line between support and control? Would you want your boss to intervene if you collapsed and your collar revealed a week-old bruise? Or should the workplace wall be higher than that? If it were you, what would you have done? Take the hand or bat it away? Tell me. Drop your city and the time in the comments. so we all remember we're in this together. If something in my story made you angry in the right way or hopeful in a way you didn't expect, hit subscribe, ring the bell, share this with somebody who needs proof that leaving isn't failure. It's building. Tell me where you agree, where you disagree, what you'd have done different. Push back. Argue. Because the part that matters most isn't the wedding or the apartment or the settlement. It's the messy middle where we decide whose pain counts, who gets believed, who gets a key. That's where lives pivot. That's where rooms stop whispering danger and start saying, "Welcome home."